Well, good morning, or good day, depending on when you are watching this. This is our week one video, and so in this video, I'm going to take roughly 20 to 25-ish minutes to do two things, and I'm going to do this every single week. I'm going to go through the goal for the entire week of what we're going to do, and then I'm going to walk you through the assignments that you have to do. And then to end this video, I'll go through some very important content for you to do. Now, this content is going to be it's going to be a summary of important content. The other thing I'll do each week is I will, after a class session, I will post the class sessions to Moodle as well. And then in addition, around Wednesday, I'm going to do like a highlights video of like, this is the main content that we covered. Here's the important things that we're talking about. So you'll get a lot each week. You won't normally get this intro video. This is just to introduce me and introduce the class. You won't normally have that. But each week you'll get an overview video like this. It'll be our week 1, week 2, week 3 video. And then you'll get class videos, and then you'll get a highlights. So it's built very, very much with your convenience in mind. I'm giving you all this information, kind of flooding you with information, and then you can kind of start picking and choosing how you want to take in the content. Do you want to watch a whole class video? Do you want to watch the highlights video? That kind of thing. But by the end of these videos, and this video in particular, you should have a really good idea of what we're going to go through in the week and what our learning objectives are. So yeah, that's just kind of an overview of these, the content. We are going really fast. This is a 10-week course. I've taught this as a 16-week course, and I've made a few adjustments to make your lives a little bit easier. We're probably not going to get to like every single thing we would in a 16-week course. I don't think that's exactly fair to you guys, but we're going to cover a ton. We got a lot of work to do, but I'm really excited to get into it. This very first week, first of all, we got introductions. So watch my intro video. I tell you a bit about myself, tell you a bit about the course. That's awesome. I touch on some things in the syllabus. I'm not going to go through the whole syllabus in this video or in that video. You can read the syllabus. The main thing that you'll find in there is that at the end of this class, you'll have written a short story, and that short story is worth a big part of your grade. That's the big takeaway. If you're able to come in person and attend, great. I'd love for you to come. If you're an online student, great. I'm so glad you're an online student. This class is a class for everybody. So that's the first thing that you'll notice in the syllabus. There's assignment descriptions and things like that, and points and weighting. You just have to do your best and get to pass the class, right? So that's all I'm asking of. In addition to this intro video, I want you to do an introduction discussion post. I'm recording this Monday at 9:30 a.m. and I've already gotten quite a few of you. Amy, Tesla, Charles, and Jersey have already written an introduction. That's fantastic. I need to write mine. No need to respond to anybody. This is something that's just more informal. It's kind of a way for me to read and get to know you. It's not necessarily for your classmates to all read. If they want to, they can. But if you want to read someone else's, go for it. But really, I'm just trying to gauge everybody's interest level in creative writing. But one of the questions I do ask in this introduction discussion post is this: writing about reading like a writer. What does it mean to read like a writer? And how is reading like a writer different than reading like a reader? That probably seems really, really wordy or kind of confusing to you guys. But that's what this week 1 is our goal. Like, our goal is to talk about and discuss reading a passage like a writer, not reading it like a reader. Okay? So that's what we're going to discuss in class. That's what I'm going to talk to you in my highlights video. That's going to be what our focus is this week. Reading like a writer. And so in today's video, I wanted to give you an example of that with a passage from To Kill a Mockingbird. I picked this partially because it's one of my favorite texts personally, but I also know that this text has some significance to some of the students in the class that I've taught previously. Um, I was picking between this and another book that I love, and I just decided I'm going to start with this one, and then the other book that I love, we'll get to some passages from that as well, and we're going to analyze them from a writer's perspective, not from a reader's perspective. Okay, so your assignment, which I want you to, this assignment is due Friday, but you can read about the assignment. You're going to practice this week reading like a writer. And so what you need to do is you need to pick something that is not academic writing. Don't pick some academic piece or anything like that. You need to pick a short story or a passage from your favorite book or a memoir. And before Wednesday, you need to read that passage as if you were going to rewrite it. Okay? In other words, you're going to read it like a writer. And I'm going to model that from my passage from To Kill a Mockingbird in this video. But some questions that you need to think about are, if you're going to rewrite this passage, what would you do differently? Then other things that are more technical, like, is the dialogue good? Is that how people talk or not? Does the story move along too quickly or slowly? Pacing is something we're going to cover in here. What could the author have done to make it more entertaining or more thought-provoking? I think I got a typo there. More enriching, more thematic, more creative, all of those. Another thing that I will hopefully model when I'm doing my reading like a writing example To Kill a Mockingbird is what is the function of that text? In creative writing, but in all writing really, you do not want fluff. You never want there to be a paragraph that exists without purpose, or a passage or a chapter to exist without purpose. That is honestly one of my main criticisms of movies in general, TV shows, but also a lot of writing, is every single thing that is written or created or developed as a video needs to have a purpose. There can never be a wasted moment. There can never be a wasted moment. Wasted moments pretty much lose your audience. And so that's really what we're going to talk about in this class, is how do you as a writer ensure that you never waste a moment, never waste a character, never waste a paragraph. If you are writing just to write, you're doing it wrong. You need to have a purpose for every passage and a purpose for every character. Every single section of your text has the opportunity to build the storyline, to provide symbolism, to provide thought and ideas through theme, or even just entertainment value, or even just significance that shows up later on. But if you write it, it needs to have purpose. So without further ado, let me model this with To Kill a Mockingbird. You're going to do this exact same thing. You get to pick your passage, and you're going to read it, and then you're going to ask yourself, what would I do different? I'm going to read this like a writer. I'm going to read it as if I'm going to rewrite the passage. So To Kill a Mockingbird, oh, I had it up here already, but I will. So we're going to this To Kill a Mockingbird PDF. And I'm going to go down. You don't have to read this. I have it posted on Moodle. You don't have to read it unless you want to. This early on in this book, we've got our narrator, Scout. If you've read this, awesome. If you haven't read this, you need to. It's such a good book. So Scout introduces it, and this character named Boo Radley gets brought up right away, and it's her brother breaks her arm, and then now all of a sudden Scout is introducing herself and what it means to be a Southerner, and the family background, and the church they go to, and where their homestead was on the Alabama River. But the part that I really, really love and that I want to point out is our main characters meet this runaway named Dill, and there's a house down the street. Now remember, these are little kids, so there's been some exposition introducing us to our main characters, Scout, Jem, and Dill. They are little kids, and one of the things that the author is going to try to show us right away is the imagination of these kids. And that's what the purpose of this passage is. I'm not going to read this for comprehension. I'm not going to read it so that I can answer questions about it. I'm going to read it from the perspective of why did the author pick these paragraphs, pick these words? Why did the author start this way? So let me just read it to you real quickly. I'm going to make my face just a little smaller real quick. Hey, shrink. Right here is where I'm going to pick up on page 8. There's this house at the end of the street called the Radley Place. And the kids are just absolutely in awe of it. The Radley Place fascinated Dill. In spite of our warnings and explanations, it drew him as the moon draws water. But it drew him no nearer than the light pole on the corner, a safe distance from the Radley gate. There he would stand, his arm around the fat pole, staring and wondering. What an amazing paragraph. Just notice some things. We have this place-based exposition. We're getting to know the neighborhood, and we're getting to know a character. We have two younger characters telling this newcomer named Dill, don't go near the Radley Place. They're warning him. But it draws him as the moon draws water. You'll notice this is called a simile. As the moon draws water. That is a simile. And the author could have picked a million different similes. It draws him like flies are drawn to a light. It draws him like honey draws a bear. Whatever draws something. You could create a simile, but the author uses the moon drawing water, which is almost like this supernatural image. You think of like a dark night and the tide of the water increasing and the ocean level getting bigger, and it creates this ominous tension. Oh, such a great selection. So if I'm reading this like a writer, I'm not just reading it like a reader. I would just appreciate, oh, such good language. If I'm reading it like a writer, I'm really diving in and going, wow, this moon drawing water creates this effect, right? This moon drawing water makes me think of this ominous picture, this dark night. But the word but shows up in the sentence, drew him no nearer than the light pole on the corner. It's drawing him in, but it's too scary to get close. A safe distance from the Radley gate. There he would stand, his arm around the fat pole, staring and wondering. Oh, you can picture that so well, can't you? A little kid looking at this ominous house. Looking at the house. He's drawn to it, but he can't get too close to it. The Radley Place jutted into a sharp curve beyond our house. Walking south, one faced its porch. The sidewalk turned and ran beside the lot. The house was low, was once white with a deep front porch and green shutters, but had long ago darkened to the color of a slate-gray yard around it. Rain-rotted shingles drooped over the eaves of the veranda. Oak trees kept the sun away. The remains of a picket drunkenly guarded the front yard, a swept yard that was never swept, where Johnson grass and rabbit tobacco grew in abundance. Wow, this is such an advanced paragraph. If you can pull a paragraph off like this, you are ready to be published. We've got such an amazing sentence constructions going on here. Simple sentence. The Radley Place jutted into a sharp curve beyond our house. Okay, boom, simple. Then, walking south, one faced its porch. Semicolon. We're not breaking these sentences apart with a period. We're slightly connecting them with a semicolon. Walking south, one faced its porch. The sidewalk turned and ran beside the lot. So you're going to have to walk by this house, in other words. And the house, as you're walking by, this is what it looks like. It was low. It was once white with a deep front porch and green shutters, but that had darkened to the color of slate gray yard around. So it's being run down. This house is being it's lived in, but there's a decay happening. And then we get these amazing sentences. Rain-rotted shingles drooped over the eaves of the veranda. That's just an amazing sentence. We have a hyphenated word leading to another semicolon. Oak trees kept the sun away. It's darkness. The remains of a picket right? Picket fence is like this American dream thing. Drunkenly guarded the front yard, drunkenly. Like we rot, drunk, droop, remains. Everything is just leading to this decayed image. A swept yard, right? It's being taken care of, but it's not being taken care of. A swept yard that was never swept, and there's these weeds growing in it. Just beautiful language, so advanced. Of course, that begs the question. The next paragraph has to be, who lives in the house? We know it's lived in. They've already told us it's lived in, but who lives in it? Inside the house lived a malevolent phantom. Oh, so good. This is where the author, remember, our narrator is like an 8-year-old girl or 6-year-old girl at this point in the story. Scout. And we're just seeing her imagination. We're seeing location established here. We're getting character development. We're also getting plot significance. If you get to the end of the story, you realize why this is significant. But we're getting this imagination of a 6-year-old. And it makes you feel like you're 6-year-old again. You're sitting on the side of the sidewalk, or you're standing with your arm around the light pole looking at this house, and you're 6 again, and you're just wondering what's in the house. Inside lived a malevolent phantom. People said he existed, but Jem and I had never seen him. People said he went out at night when the moon was down and peeped in windows. When people's azaleas froze in a cold snap, it was because he had breathed on them. Any stealthy small crimes committed in Macomb were his work. Once the town was terrorized by a series of morbid nocturnal events. People's chickens and household pets were found mutilated. Although the culprit was Crazy Addie, who eventually drowned himself in Barker's Eddy, people still looked at the Radley place, unwilling to discard their initial suspicions. Now we're learning about the town, you guys. We're going from this kid's imagination to this conversation of the kid listening in the living room, and something just happened in town, and the adults are saying, I bet it was that Radley family. I bet it was that guy that lives. Now we're getting into like this town description. And of course, as we get into town description, we're going to get into what the story is actually about, which is racism. And we're going to get this little tiny sentence that looks so insignificant. But the significance of the whole story is contained right here. This story is about a father fighting against racism. And you don't even know that when you're reading the story, except for this really small sentence. A Negro would not pass the Radley place at night. He would cut across the sidewalk opposite and whistle as he walked. Remember, this was written in like the 50s and 60s, so there might be some politically correct language to discuss here. But the whole point is that here we are getting an introduction to this major conflict in the story, which is the wrongful accusal of a black man. Okay? And we're getting that town sentiment of wrongful accusation. Now we're getting that a black man would not pass this house at night. He would just go across and whistle as he walked. Safety, right? So there's this root of racism still in the town. The Macomb school grounds adjoined the back of the Radley Rock. From the Radley chicken yard, tall pecan trees shook their fruit into the schoolyard, but the nuts lay untouched by the children. Radley pecans would kill you. A baseball hit into the Radley yard was a lost ball, no questions asked. So there's a school right by this house, so these kids are walking by it every day. And you can just picture what kids are saying as they walk. They walk quietly, and then they get to the playground and they go, my dad said that the other day when the bike was stolen, it was the Radley house. So we're getting this picture of characters and of towns. We're getting hints of conflict, and I just read 3 paragraphs. There's so much going on. It's beautiful language. It's full of imagery, but there's a function. And the function is to introduce us to characters and to introduce us to the setting of Macomb, Alabama, so that you can start picturing what that town was like and what the people are like. Not a single word is wasted. 3 paragraphs. It probably is about 1 page from here to here. 1 page. Not a single word is wasted. There's a lot going on. There's imagery, there's alliteration, there's amazing sentence constructions, but not a single word is wasted. You are in the neighborhood looking at that house with these kids. You have the kids' mindset back. So that is an example of reading like a writer. I am reading and I'm going, oh my goodness, how did the writer construct this beautiful, beautiful passage that just evokes so much emotion and childhood nostalgia. So what I would do then is I would then complete my writer's lens assignment. That's my passage. I would then write this assignment. You can see writer's lens. I have all the instructions in a file that you can download. If you have troubles downloading it, please let me know. I'm happy to post it as a page on Moodle as well. Oh, I got to actually update. I'm changing this schedule, but anyway, I will update this and have a better one. But I want you to just look at this first page. The first page is what I care about. How do I zoom in and get rid of this? Well, anyway, during the coming weeks, you'll read a few short stories. This week, you get to choose yours. And your goal is to read these short stories from the perspective of a creative writer. That means you think about the author's choices in their writing. Some great questions to ask yourself as you read are: how did the author develop main characters, side characters? What purpose did the author seem to want to accomplish? I'm looking for a 500-word reflection, and you can please write it either as what you can. When you submit this assignment, you can upload a document and submit a document, or you can just write right in Moodle. It is not shared with everybody. This is not a discussion forum, so this isn't going out to everybody. You can just write it right in Moodle if you prefer to do that. You're going to pick your own passage. I don't care what it is. It just can't be academic writing. It has to be something creative. It doesn't have to be a specific genre. It can be any creative writing, any fiction writing. And you're going to pick a passage that does something. And you're going to tell me, what does the passage do? How did the author do it? What type of grammar was used to accomplish the goal? What type of sentence constructions were used to accomplish the goal? What type of imagery was used to accomplish the goal? But not only that, what is the goal? The goal is to introduce us to characters. The goal is to introduce us to a setting. The goal is to help us understand the theme of the story, right? You can ideally know exactly what the purpose of every paragraph is in a creative writing setting. No wasted paragraphs. I can say that again and again and again. Never waste a word of writing, okay? Never waste a word of writing. It's got to have purpose. Okay. That's the assignment, that's the overview, and that's kind of an example of how you read like a writer. I'm going to go through this a little bit more in class today, so if you have any questions at all, you can watch the class video from 10-2, and that video will introduce reading like a writer more thoroughly. By Wednesday, you need to have selected and read a passage of your choice, and by Friday, October 6th at 1 p.m., you need to have completed this. If that due date is not workable for you, I can probably give you till Sunday. Well, but I am going to grade these on Monday, and late work I'm pretty generous with late work. If you turn in a late assignment, you've got another week to get it done, and then after that it's a 0. I give you up to 1 week to do your work. If you are over 1 week late from the listed due date, it's a 0. But I will grade these Monday, next Monday. 10-9. And so since I'm grading these Monday, if you end up turning it in Sunday night, that's fine. But formally, Friday, October 6th at 1 p.m. is when it's due. Okay, I'm going to update this document as well so it's more accurate. But let me know if you have any questions. It should be a great week. We're going to practice reading like a writer, and then next week we're going to start writing. So that's the plan. All right, see you everyone.